The wind whistled low across the high Wyoming plains, carrying the scent of rain and something older. Sorrow, maybe, or ghosts. Silas Rourke leaned forward in the saddle, squinting past the drizzle at the faint outline of his ranch. The sky behind him was painted in bruised purples and coppery golds, the kind of sky Eliza used to call God's last painting before bed. He shifted in the saddle at the thought of her name, as if it physically unsettled him. He'd buried her 2 winters ago, in the kind of ground that fought the shovel. Fever took her quick, before he made it back from tracking a coyote that had been slitting open his calves. One morning she was coughing at the hearth, and by dusk the neighbors were helping him carve a pine box. Now, the land that had once known, her laugh was just wind and silence. He passed through the creaking ranch gate, the boards weathered, one hanging at an angle he'd been meaning to fix. The horses in the corral were restless, nostrils flaring toward the barn. He didn't like that. Silas dismounted, boots sinking into the mud as he grabbed the rifle from his saddle and approached the barn. The door creaked open with a groan that sounded almost human. He stepped inside. At first he saw nothing, just hay bales, tack hooks, and the usual clutter of a working ranch. Then he caught it, the faint clink of metal. Subtle, but wrong. He turned toward the sound, eyes adjusting. And there she was, a girl, no more than 14, crouched in the corner near the feed barrels. Her hair hung in thick, filthy knots, skin pale beneath layers of dust. She wore nothing more than a burlap shift, torn at the hem, and around her ankle, bolted to a support post with iron chain, was a shackle. She stared at him without blinking, not pleading, not scared, just watching, like she'd been expecting him. Silas raised the rifle instinctively, the weight of it familiar in his arms. "Who the hell are you?" he asked, voice low, sharp. The girl didn't flinch. "You don't have to point that," she said. Her voice was hoarse, unused. "I won't run. I asked you a question. I heard you." She looked past the barrel of the rifle into his face. "I told her you'd be mad at first." His brows drew together. "Told who?" "Eliza," she said. "Your daughter." Silas's breath caught in his chest. "Don't," he growled. "Don't say that name." The girl didn't move. "She said you'd say that too." "Who told you to say that?" "She did. Before she left, before the light came." Silas took a step closer, rifle still aimed. He could see her better now. The skin around her wrist was raw where she'd been tugging the shackle. Her toes were blue from cold. But it wasn't just her condition that troubled him. It was the locket around her neck. Old, rusted, heart-shaped. Silas stared. The fire seemed to drain from his limbs. "Where'd you get that?" "She gave it to me," the girl said. "Before the river." His voice was quieter now, rasping like a dry wind. "That's not possible. She said to give it back to you when the stars turned red and the coyotes stopped howling." He swallowed hard. That locket had been Eliza's. She'd worn it. Since her mother passed, it had been buried with her. "No," he said. "No. You stole that. Someone took it from her grave. Is that what this is? Some twisted joke?" The girl shook her head. "She's not angry. She said you needed something to believe in." Silas lowered the rifle, hand trembling. He stared at the girl, not knowing what to say, not knowing how to fit any of this into the rigid shape his life had become. "What's your name?" "They called me different things. None of them kind." "I didn't ask what they called you. What do you call yourself?" She hesitated, then said, "Clara." The name hung in the air, foreign and fragile. He took a breath. "How long have you been here?" "Since the moon was full." He looked at the corner where she sat. No bedding, no food. "You kill that coyote?" he asked, gesturing to the fresh corpse nearby. Its neck was twisted at an unnatural angle. Clara nodded. "It got too close." He blinked. "With your hands?" "Teeth," she said simply. "Then hands." Silas stared at her. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel alone. Not exactly comforted, but no longer entirely hollow. "I'll get the key," he said finally. I'm not ready to leave, she said. You're not staying shackled in my barn. I mean, I don't know where else to go. Silas paused, then said, Let's start with getting you warm. He walked to the wall cabinet, grabbed the key from the hook, and approached slowly. Clara didn't move as he knelt beside her. He unlocked the shackle. The metal fell away with a soft clink, and she rubbed her ankle absently. Silas offered a hand. She took it. Her skin was cold. He led her through the storm to the cabin. The fire crackled as she sat wrapped in a blanket too large for her frame. He poured a ladle of stew into a tin bowl and set it down. Clara stared at it for a moment before beginning to eat with the focus of someone who didn't trust the next meal would come. Silas sat across from her, watching. What happened to you? She kept eating. Did someone bring you here? Silence. He tried again. Where'd you come from? A place no one gets out of, she said, eyes on the bowl. Not unless they hear the whisper. What whisper? Her eyes flicked up to him. The one that says you're not done yet. Silas leaned back. The wood stove's heat did little to calm the chill settling in his bones. Where's your family? She swallowed. Gone. Did they chain you? No. Others did. Why? I saw too much. He studied her. You talk in riddles. I talk in the way people listen, she replied. Too plain, and they stop hearing. He almost smiled at that. The storm outside roared louder. Wind beat at the shutters. Silas stood and stoked the fire. Behind him, Clara said, She said you used to sing when you were nervous. He froze. What? Your daughter. She said you'd hum the hymn your wife liked, even while loading your gun. His mouth went dry. She said that night she died. You were on the ridge above the valley. That you looked back once. And then didn't turn around. He turned slowly. No one knew that, he said. Clara's eyes glistened. She did. Silas sat down again slowly, heavily. I don't believe in ghosts, he said. She's not a ghost, Clara whispered. She's a promise. Outside, the wind finally began to die. Silas leaned forward. You hungry for more than stew? She nodded. Then tomorrow, you tell me everything. Clara met his eyes. I will, she said. But only if you promise not to run. I don't run, Silas said quietly. Her gaze didn't break. Neither did his. The fire burned on. And something unspoken settled between them. Wariness, yes, but also recognition. Of wounds not yet healed. Of names still spoken. Of a story just beginning. Morning came slow. The sky bruised itself pink before the sun finally yawned over the far ridge, touching the frost-lined fields with a pale glow. Silas stood at the edge of the porch, steaming mug in hand, eyes on the horizon. The earth was still, but it felt like something waited underneath it, like something old had stirred the night before and hadn't quite gone back to sleep. Behind him, he heard the creak of a floorboard and the rustle of a blanket being folded. Clara had woken early, though she hadn't said a word yet. She was quiet in the way wild things are, watchful, alert, unsure when the danger would return. Silas didn't look back. You sleep at all? A pause, then. Enough. He sipped his coffee. Storm's cleared. Good time to talk. Another pause. He heard her step outside, bare feet soft on the wood. She stood beside him, wrapped in an old coat of Eliza's that hung off her shoulders like it remembered a different child. Clara looked out toward the hills. You buried her on the north slope. He glanced down at her. You seen it? I dreamed it, she said. The place with the little white stones. Silas didn't speak. She left something there, Clara added. Said it wasn't. Finished. You dream a lot, do you? Only when it matters. He studied her. You said you'd tell me everything. Start now. Clara hesitated, then sat down on the steps, pulling her knees to her chest. I was born near the bitter roots. Didn't stay long. My ma was a healer. Folks came to her when the doctor wouldn't touch 'em. Indians, miners, women who lost too many babies. She didn't turn anyone away. Silas sat beside her, setting his coffee down on the rail. She said healing was just listening closely, listening to the body, and to the in-between. I didn't understand what that meant till later. She picked at the fraying edge of the coat. When I was 10, they came for her. A man named Devlin, said she'd spoken with spirits, said it was witch work. Silas felt his jaw clench. They burned her cabin. She made me hide under the floorboards, told me to stay quiet no matter what I heard. Clara's voice dropped. I didn't stay quiet long. I ran, got caught before sunup. That's when the chain started. Silas didn't interrupt. They kept me moving. Different wagons, men with rifles. I was property, they said. Special. Said I had the sight, like her. She glanced at him. They were wrong. I didn't have what she had. I had something else. What? Silas asked. I hear the dead. A silence fell between them, deep and cold. You hear them how? He asked, after a long moment. In dreams. Sometimes whispers when I'm awake, but only when it's important, only when someone's not ready to let go. And Eliza? She's loud, Clara said. Not angry, just stubborn, like she needs something done before she rests. Silas stared straight ahead. That'd be like her. She told me where to go, how to find you, told me what to say. He looked at her. Why? She didn't say exactly. Just that you weren't done yet. That something was coming, and you'd need someone who could see what others couldn't. The door behind them creaked. Silas turned. It was Boone, the ranch dog. Old, half-blind, but loyal. He hadn't left the cabin all night. Now he sat in the doorway, hackles up, growling low in his throat. Clara stood abruptly. It's here, she whispered. What is? The thing that broke the world. A shadow passed over the yard. Just a cloud maybe, but Silas felt the air shift, like the land was holding its breath. He grabbed the rifle from just inside the door. Boone barked once, then again. Silas stepped down off the porch. Then he saw them. Tracks. Fresh. Wagon wheels. Hoof prints. Heavy. Too heavy for a trader. Too many for a neighbor. He motioned for Clara to get inside. She didn't move. Now. Still, she stood rooted. They're coming. For me. For what I know. He didn't ask how she knew. He looked at the trail. East. Toward the river bend. Silas muttered. That's Devlin country. Clara nodded. He's still looking. He has others now. Men who carve words into skin. Men who drink gunpowder and believe in things darker than devils. You're saying he's hunting you? Not just me. People like me. The old blood. He wants to silence the dead. Silas rubbed a hand over his face. You're talking like a fever dream. But, you don't think I'm lying? No, he admitted. I don't. From the corner of the porch, Boone gave a short, sharp bark, then went quiet. The breeze carried a new scent. Smoke. Not wood smoke. Oil. Wagon tar. Metal. Time to move, Silas said. Pack light. I don't have anything, Clara said. You do now, he replied, handing her a spare canteen and a skinning knife. He looked her in the eye. You stick close, you listen when I speak, you don't wander, that clear? She nodded once. They moved fast, cutting through the edge of the pasture, avoiding the open road. Silas led her down an old cattle trail he hadn't used in years. Overgrown, but still there. As they walked, Clara whispered something too quiet for him to hear. What was that? She's worried, Clara said. Eliza. About what? That you still haven't forgiven yourself. He stopped walking. The wind played through the grass, tugging at the brim of his hat. He looked at Clara. There's nothing to forgive. I wasn't there. I failed her. She doesn't blame you. I blame me. She didn't reply. Didn't need to. They kept walking. By mid-morning, they reached the tree line near Red Hollow. Silas crouched low, scanning the distance. Smoke. 3 plumes. closing fast. Clara tapped his shoulder. There's someone else here, watching us. He turned. Where? She pointed, off to the ridge, among the rocks. And there he was, alone, rider, tall, wrapped in a dark cloak, face hidden behind a scarf and hat. He sat astride a buckskin stallion like he'd grown from the saddle. He didn't move, just watched. Silas lifted his rifle halfway. The man raised a hand. Peaceful. Then, turned his horse and disappeared behind the ridge. Clara exhaled slowly. He's not with them. Friend of yours? No, but he will be. You see the future now too? No, she said. Just feel the pull, same as a river before it floods. They moved again, this time faster, as they climbed a narrow draw. Clara paused at a patch of moss-covered stones. Silas turned. Keep moving. She says we're close. To what? To the truth, Clara said. To what broke her. Silas looked at the stones. He recognized one, small, white, with a carved feather. He'd placed it there. That was where Eliza had fallen ill the first time, where she'd said her dreams had changed. Clara reached down, moved aside the moss. Beneath it, a carved symbol in the earth. A circle, split by a jagged line. Silas stared. I didn't make that, Clara whispered. But it made her sick. This place. It's a wound in the land. The sky above them dimmed slightly, though the sun was still high. Silas felt the hairs on his arms rise. We need to keep moving. He reached down, took her hand. She didn't resist. As they hurried down the ridge, the wind behind them whispered again. A voice just at the edge of hearing. Silas didn't want to know what it said, but Clara did. She says they're close, and if we don't find the other one soon, we'll never leave these hills. The other what? He asked. She looked up at him. The one who remembers. The rider. He's the key. Silas looked ahead, where the trail split into three. Then, let's find him. And as they disappeared into the trees, the shadows lengthened behind them. The hunt had begun. They found the rider at dusk. He stood by a creek swollen with meltwater, tending to his horse like he'd been waiting hours. He didn't flinch when Silas raised his rifle, didn't move when Clara stepped forward. The wind stirred his coat, but he remained a statue. Tall, lean, and too still to be ordinary. I saw you on the ridge, Silas called. I let you, the man answered. His voice was gravel and wind, old as stone, but not weary. He turned, pulling down his scarf. His face was hollowed, sun-dark, with eyes like smoke curling off burnt cedar. Name's Calhoun, he said. And I know the girl. Clara didn't blink. You knew my mother. Calhoun nodded. She saved me once. Cost her dearly. Silas stepped between them. You with Devlin? Calhoun laughed, a short, bitter thing. I was once. Long time ago, before I knew what he truly was. He dropped a satchel near the water's edge and unrolled a cloth bundle. Inside were bones, small ones, bird maybe, charred and marked with ash ink symbols. Clara crouched down, fingers hovering just above the bones. These were his messages, Calhoun nodded. We thought they were spells, warnings. Turns out they were confessions. Silas lowered his rifle. You gonna speak plain or not? Calhoun sat back on his heels. Devlin's no longer a man. He ain't been for years. He made a pact with something old. Older than fire. Older than fear. It's not just about the girl. He wants to rewrite the line between the living and the dead. Clara frowned. He's trying to close the door. Worse, Calhoun said. He wants to lock it from the other side. Silence every voice that lingers. Erase memory from the marrow. If he succeeds, the dead won't whisper, they'll vanish. Silas leaned against a tree. And you expect me to believe this? You've already started, Calhoun said, eyes narrowing. You buried a woman who still speaks. You carry her ring on your belt like a man waiting for a ghost's approval. Silas's hand twitched near his hip, where the ring hung from a leather thong. He hadn't shown it. Not once. Clara turned to Silas. We have to stop him. Calhoun stood. There's only one way. We go where it began. The hollow. Silas froze. No one goes into the hollow and comes back clean. Then we don't. Aim to come back clean, Calhoun said. Just alive. The hollow lay east of the old mining town, now just boards and ghosts. They reached it by moonlight. The path down was narrow, slick with moss and memory. Trees leaned in too close like they were listening. The birds had gone quiet. Even the wind avoided this place. Clara walked first, as if pulled. This is where he took her, she whispered. My mother. After the trial. After they cut her. Name from the town ledgers. Silas kept his hand near his rifle, but no gun would matter down here. He felt it in his chest. The pressure, like standing in water too deep to see the bottom. They reached a clearing marked by cairns, rough stone, piles each with something strange atop it. A braid of hair, a broken jawbone, a doll's eye. The ground hummed beneath their boots. Clara knelt at one. This is where they kept her, before she died. Not just her, Calhoun said. All of them. The ones like me. Clara said, voice trembling. The ones they took. Silas stepped back. God help us. No gods here, Calhoun muttered. Just memory, and it's hungry. Suddenly, a low thrumming started, like bees trapped beneath the earth. The stones rattled. A scream rose, thin and stretched, then died without echo. Clara turned to them, eyes wide. They know we're here. What do we do? Silas asked. Finish what she started, Clara said. My mother opened the gate. I can close it, but not alone. Calhoun drew a thin blade etched with runes. We protect her, no matter what comes out. The shadows twisted, and from between the trees came figures. Not men, not alive. Wearing the skins of hunters, but their eyes were hollow and weeping ash. Each moved wrong, too fast, too fluid, like marionettes jerked by unseen strings. Clara stood still. They're bound to him, to Devlin. Silas raised his rifle and fired. One fell, but rose again, unbleeding. Another reached for him and Calhoun severed its hand with a flash of steel. They're not dead, Silas shouted. They're not alive either, Calhoun growled. Just echoes. Clara stepped forward, ignoring the battle behind her. She knelt in the center of the clearing and pressed her palms to the soil, whispered something low. A wind kicked up. The cairns pulsed and from the earth came light, dim, cold, and steady. The echoes stopped moving, then screamed. High, shattering wails. One crumbled to ash. Another ran, its face melting like wax. Clara whispered louder, eyes shut. I call back the names. Silas watched as the wind circled her, lifting her hair like flame. The ground split beneath her knees, and from it rose a figure cloaked in white smoke. Eliza. Silas dropped his rifle. His knees hit earth. Eliza turned, face clear as day, eyes soft. She touched Clara's brow, then looked at Silas. You carried my name too long, she said. He swallowed hard. I wasn't ready to let go. You don't have to, she whispered. But it's time to forgive. Then she turned to Calhoun. You owe a debt. I know, he said, voice shaking. She touched his chest. His body jerked once, then stilled. And from his mouth came another voice. Not his. Devlin. You've walked into my hands, it snarled. Fools, you bring me the last key. The air twisted. Calhoun's body rose, fingers bent wrong. Clara stepped back. But Eliza didn't flinch. She whispered one word. Remember. And Calhoun's body buckled. Silas caught him before he fell. The smoke cleared. The earth sealed. The cairn stopped humming. Clara opened her eyes. It's done. Silas looked down. Is he alive? She said. But changed. Calhoun groaned, blinked. I saw it. I saw all of it. What Devlin's building. What he's made of. He's not just one man now. He's many. Clara's voice was calm, We ended this gate. But he's made others. Silas stood. Then, we burn them down. One by one. Calhoun coughed. We'll need more than bullets. We've got her, Silas said, nodding at Clara. And her mother's memory. Clara smiled faintly. There's power in that. Silas looked to the dark beyond the trees. He knew the war wasn't over. Devlin wasn't done. But something had changed. Clara had changed. And so had he. They turned west, toward the fire-lit path home. The hollow behind them fell silent, but the road ahead would not. They reached the outskirts of Redemption Ridge at sunrise. Smoke drifted in lazy tendrils across the sky, not from chimneys, but from pyres, thick columns of black that clawed upward like accusations. The town was already burning. Not all of it, not yet, but enough to know they were late. Clara didn't stop walking. Behind her, Calhoun limped, the possession having stripped weight from his frame. His breath rattled. Silas stayed close, rifle in hand, not because he expected it to save them, but because he didn't know how to stand without it. No one greeted them at the edge of town. No children playing, no dogs barking, no doors creaking open to see who'd come. Just ash and the crackling hush of fire chewing its way through timber. The crosses are back, Calhoun whispered, pointing to the ridge above the chapel. 7 of them, fresh. And hung upon each, bound in iron wire and soaked in pitch, were the people who had once passed sentence on Clara's mother. Reverend Hurst, Judge Langley. Tarn, blacksmith who'd melted down her wedding band, all nailed like warnings, faces melted and fixed in horror. None had burned yet, not fully. They're alive, Clara said, her voice cold. He's making them watch. A church bell rang once. A single chime, too loud for mourning, too heavy for mercy. They turned toward the chapel, its steeple split and charred, the white paint stained like rust. The door stood open. On the threshold stood a child, but not a child. Too pale, too still. Her eyes were wrong, pure black, lidless, stretching slightly beyond their sockets. Her dress was stitched from funeral linens, the lace scorched at the pot. Clara didn't look away. He's inside, Calhoun flinched. That thing ain't just a messenger. No, Clara said. It's a promise. She stepped forward. The child smiled. Her teeth were all canines. Inside the chapel, the pews were overturned. The stained glass had shattered inward, cutting sunlight into ribbons across the floor. Every wall bore symbols drawn in ash, swirling spirals and marks shaped like doors with no hinges. Devlin stood at the altar, or what was left of him. His body shimmered, like heat over sand. Parts of him shifted, eyes where none should be, hands that flickered like moth wings. But his voice was unchanged, smooth, warm, like the man who once blessed crops and married sweethearts. Clara, he said. You look just like her. Clara stepped into the nave. She died because of you. No, Devlin said. She died because the town feared what it couldn't control. I only showed them the fire. You lit it, Clara said. Devlin smiled. And now I offer it to you. He raised a hand. Flames burst from the font, coiling into a crown above his head. Silas raised his rifle. Devlin didn't blink. You've already lost this war, Silas. You just haven't seen it yet. I've seen enough, Silas said, and fired. The bullet passed through Devlin like smoke. The wall behind him cracked. Still clinging to old tools, Devlin said. But the world is new now. Come, Clara. You have her blood. You can walk between. Clara took another step forward. You tortured her. I enlightened her, Devlin said. She saw beyond the veil, and she opened the first gate, with her dying breath. Clara's hands clenched. Then let mine close the last. She pulled, the charm from her neck, the one her mother left her, etched with both their names bound by a braid of her mother's hair. Devlin's face twitched. You don't know what that holds. I don't need to, she said, placing it on the altar. She knew. The charm pulsed once. The air split. From every shattered window came a voice, some weeping, some screaming, others laughing. The floor groaned. From beneath it, hands clawed upward, skeletal, ash-covered, desperate. But they weren't reaching for Clara. They reached for Devlin. He stepped back. No. They were mine. No, Calhoun said, entering behind her, torch in hand. They were free. Until you chained them. Devlin snarled. His form began to collapse, parts of him peeling away like wet parchment. More hands emerged from the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Clara whispered something, a prayer, a name. Eliza. The fire surged. Devlin screamed, not a human scream, something old, echoing, layered with 100 stolen voices. The walls buckled, the altar cracked. The charm split in two, and from its core came light, pure, unyielding. The flames devoured Devlin. This time he didn't pass through them. He burned, and when it was over, only the cross remained. The hands withdrew. The fire cooled. The chapel stood empty, the silence deep and final. Clara knelt beside the ashes. A faint breeze lifted a strand of hair, and she thought, just for a moment, she heard her mother's voice. Not in words, just warmth. She smiled. Silas holstered his rifle. Is it done? Calhoun leaned on the wall, pale but alive. Here. Yes, but there'll be others. Clara stood. Then we teach them. Silas looked toward the ridge, where the crosses still stood. What about them? Clara walked to the chapel door. Let them hang. Let others see what happens to those who serve fire over family. The three of them walked into the morning, smoke curling at their backs. The fire no longer chased them. The cross no longer marked fear. It marked memory. And somewhere behind them, in a place beyond time, Eliza watched her daughter walk free. But the road ahead twisted, and war never ends with fire, only with truth.